CBSE Board, Class 9, History, Chapter 8, Part 14, audio by Renee Matthew. So we took a flashback at life of Gandhi and we saw how he also evolved. Like that was the starting of his life. He also wore Western clothes in the beginning. Now let's take a look at the timeline. Timeline is nothing but the specific time in a person's life or event which took place in history, showing the time, especially the year and when it took place. So, first point, soon he, that is Gandhi, decided that dressing unsuitably was a more powerful political statement. Unsuitably, in the sense, he was protesting strongly against the foreign rule and he thought of wearing something which will really make others question. So his dress was always a question mark in the minds of people. It is like people would start asking, why are you doing this? Or what is the main purpose of it? So we have heard stories of that kind also where people really asked and he gave convincing answers also for it. He said, when the whole country is under poverty, I cannot wear Western suits or rich clothes. In Durban in 1913, there is a first timeline, Gandhi first appeared in a lungi and kurta with his head shaved as a sign of mourning to protest against the shooting of Indian coal miners. So this is also the first way of dressing unsuitably, not only the present or the latest style that we saw Mahatma Gandhi as Mahatma Gandhi. So first time that he did this was he appeared in a lungi and kurta with his head shaved. The first time he shaved his head completely as a sign of protesting. It was like mourning, literally crying against the shooting of Indian coal miners. So people were shot dead by the foreigners. So he was protesting against that by wearing this lungi and kurta with a shaven head. On his return to India in 1915, he decided to dress like a Kadhiawadi peasant. So he dressed like a peasant in 1915 when he came back to India. That is a second way of dressing unsuitably. You can develop these points for short answers because these are some of the places where he protested through his dressing style itself. Only in 1921 did he adopt the short dhoti, the form of dress he wore until his death. So it is from 1921 that he started wearing the short dhoti, and sometimes he just covered his upper body with a strip of cloth, of khadi cloth. That's it, not more than that. And usually it was just the short dhoti that he wore, and he held a stick also. So it is from 1921 that he adopted this style. It is because of the need of the hour. So this is the timeline. It starts here. On 22nd September 1921, a year after launching the non-cooperation movement, which sought Swaraj in 1 year, he announced. So it is after launching the non-cooperation movement that he made the strong announcement. So these are bits and pieces taken from his lifestyle, from his life, or from his period in the national struggle where he mentioned clothing. We are not just looking into the life of Gandhi and what he did for the country. That is not what is meant here. But there are some shots where he really talked about the dress, and dress was a symbolic protest against the foreign rule. So he told on 22nd September 1921, I propose to discard at least up to 31st of October my topi and vest. So he just wanted to do away with the topi and vest at least till 31st October. So that was what he decided initially. He didn't want to continue with this pattern of dressing till his death. He told there is a time for it where I'm going to discard my topi and vest, that is till 31st October, and to content myself with a loincloth. So I'll be very happy with a loincloth. Till when? Till 31st October. And a chadar whenever necessary for protection of my body. I adopt the change because I have always hesitated to advise anything I may not be prepared to follow. So he's telling I'm not advising others to follow this. I'm just doing something for myself and for my happiness. And I'll be very happy with the basic necessity of wearing the short dhoti. I'm not going to adorn myself with clothes that is not needed in this Indian climate and country, and that is a strong way of protesting against the foreigners. And one more thing is, he didn't want to buy the clothes which were produced by the Britishers. So being a leader, he himself is against all this. So instead of burning the materials, he was totally against burning and looting and all these things. So he didn't want to have any damage. That is something he strongly reluctant. He even told his followers not to cause damage to anybody. Only thing is to not just cooperate so that they will just move away from this. That was his weapon, that was his strategy that was used by him, and that is why it was really successful also. At this time, he did not want to use this dress all his life. So it is not that he decided to use it all his life. It was only till October 31st that he was going to use it. But what happened after that? And only wanted to experiment for a month or two. That's it, not more than that. So that people or the foreigners will say, okay, fine, we are just fed up with your revolt. And he just wanted them to concede with whatever he was asking for. But soon he saw this as his duty to the poor, and he never wore any other dress. So he wanted the consent of the foreigners, the foreign rule, administrative part, to say that you can dress in the way you like. But what happened after that? He saw that this was his duty to the poor when half of the country, like 3/4, not even half, when 3/4 of the country was not having the basic necessities, when when they were not able to feed themselves, when they were not able to clothe themselves properly, why should he wear clothes which were made by the Britishers, and that too the three-piece suit and all these things? No. He told a strong no to all these things and never wore any other dress except the scarce one, that is the short dhoti. He consciously rejected the well-known clothes of the Indian ascetic and adopted the dress of the poorest Indian. Very important point. The poorest Indian will wear something like this, so I will also be like that, setting an example for everybody else. Khadi, white and coarse. It was coarse, it was not a soft material. Even now we get khadi, it is not soft. It is actually coarse. You can't say it is tough and rough, but coarse. Was to him a sign of purity, of simplicity, and of poverty. And that is why he wore or began with the khadi, because it was white and coarse, which actually is a symbol of purity, of individuality, of identity. It was to him a sign of purity, of simplicity, and of poverty. Very strong words. Wearing it became also a symbol of nationalism, a rejection of Western mill-made cloth. So these are things which could be produced in India itself, and it was a strong protest against what was produced by the foreigners in India, or whichever was produced by the machines was to be strongly discouraged. That is what he wanted to tell his followers. So it was like how the people dreamt in those days. Maybe the people who lived in India in those days dreamt that we can actually promote nationalism through this. So eventually it became a symbol of nationalism. Whatever Gandhiji adopted became a symbol of nationalism and a rejection of Western mill-made cloth. So that was his main objective. If they ask you why he did it, these are some of the reasons. And how did he do it? The timeline is very important that we saw just now. He wore the short dhoti without a shirt when he went to England for the Round Table Conference in 1931. It's a very famous landmark in his history. If you ever have landmarks in history, it is one of the most turning point of the life history of Gandhi, where he took the courage, he took all strength to wear this dhoti to the Round Table Conference in 1939, which was held in England, without any shame, because he said, I am representing my country and 3/4 of my country is crying with debt and poverty. So it is my duty. He refused to compromise. He just didn't want to compromise. Maybe many people told, you're going for a national meeting, wear a western suit. We saw that the Mysore turban was very famous in those days. The turbans, many forms of turbans were very famous along with western suit. So he was maybe forced, or they tried to convince him to wear something which was like appealing or looked pleasant. But he was like, let me be myself. I just want to represent the poverty in India, or this actual reality in India. So he was not ready to compromise and wore it even before King George V at Buckingham Palace. So that was his nature. He wore it to the Buckingham Palace also without any shame, and he did not stand stooping and all. He stood with all pride before the king. When he was asked by journalists whether he was wearing enough clothes to go before the king, he joked that the king had enough on for both of us, which meant that the king is draped with so much of ornamentation. The king is wearing clothes which is sufficient to dress two people. He's wearing, like kings will definitely dress in big majestic clothes and wardrobes. So he's telling that whatever he's wearing is worth dressing two people. You can even dress more than two people. So it is something very costly, and also more clothes are put on the king. So it is sufficient to even dress two people. So he's wearing for both of us, and why should I wear more clothes? I'll wear what is necessary for me. That was his answer. Now, what was Gandhi's dream? Mahatma Gandhi's dream was to clothe the whole nation in khadi. So that is what he wanted for the whole nation. He wanted everybody to wear this simple cloth. He felt khadi would be a means of erasing difference between religions, classes, etc. This was a main problem faced by everybody in those times, like people belonging to upper caste, people belonging to lower caste. They had different ways of dressing themselves. So he really wanted to erase the difference between religions, between classes, between castes. So if everybody adopt a similar style, it will be easy to face everybody else. You will also experience this fellowship with one another without any difference. But was it easy for others to follow in his footsteps? Was everybody a Gandhi? Did everybody really understand the meaning of this great leader, or what he really wanted? Was everybody able to step into his shoes and understand what was required for the nation at that time? That is the meaning of this question. But was it easy for others to follow in his footsteps? Was such a unity possible? Because India is a very big country, and it is full of cultural differences, a lot of different religions, and so much of variety is there. So is it possible to bring such a unity? It is a big task, right? And now with the foreign rule, there were more divisions. It was like more of problems were also there, more of conflicts were there. People were restless. It is very difficult to control a big nation when they are restless, when they're worried, when they are filled with anxiety. Not many could take to the single peasant loincloth as he did. So everybody was not able to accommodate this particular idea of wearing the loincloth, and they were not able to even think like him and understand or fully comprehend with what this leader was trying to say. So everybody was not able to take what he was trying to say, nor did all want to. And some of them really opposed. They really did not want to accept what Gandhi was trying to say. What was his dream? It was to clothe the whole nation in khadi. It is not to show that you are inferior to somebody else. That was not his motto. Not to show that Indians don't have enough clothes to dress themselves. It is not that. It is just to spread unity. Why? Why do you think unity is very important? It is because the country was under colonization. If they don't stand together, if people don't stand together, it is very difficult to throw the foreign rule. It is very difficult to overcome the foreign rule. So, the first thing which was very important in the country was to bring everybody under one roof. It is not dominating, but to bring in some unity so that as a full, powerful nation, they can fight the Britishers. It was a big, come on, it was a very big country, and it is very easy to just overpower the Britishers if they stood as one. So even before the Britishers came, or one of the main reasons why the Britishers invaded India was because it was divided into small, small territories with small, small kingdoms, and the rulers were fighting internally in the country. So it was very important, and it was very easy actually for the Britishers to come and invade the Indians just like that, because lot of difference of opinion was there internally. The kings were themselves fighting amongst themselves. So that is one of the reason why it was very difficult to exercise this colonization in India.